These 8 advanced English words will lift your fluency and your IELTS, TOEFL, or Cambridge score, and you won't just memorize them. You'll meet each one inside the story, feel what it means, then prove you caught it. That's how your brain keeps them for good. On the worst night of the Great Famine, Elias the lighthouse keeper was offered enough gold to feed his starving children for a year, if he would only let 100 strangers drown. The coast had always been poor, but that winter it was destitute. The harvest had failed, the fish had vanished from the bay, and in the cold stone cottages along the shore, the children were going to bed hungry. Elias kept the lighthouse on the cliff at Black Point. His one duty was simple and sacred. When a tempest came, he lit the great lamp, and its beacon warned the ships away from the rocks that had killed so many men. But the rocks of Black Point had always fed another kind of man. Wreckers. They prayed for ships to founder so that they might plunder the cargo that washed ashore. On the night the tempest came, the worst storm in 40 years, their leader, Mr. Coyle, climbed the cliff path to the keeper's door. He carried a heavy purse of gold. "A grain ship is coming," Coyle said, "bound for these rocks already, in this storm. Keep your beacon dark tonight, Elias. Let her strike. We share the cargo. And the gold. Your children eat all winter long." Elias looked at the purse. He thought of his own children, thin and silent in their beds, their dire need a constant ache in his chest. The gold was tempting beyond words. For one long moment, in his dire poverty, he was sorely tempted. One dark lamp, one ship he would never see, full of strangers he would never meet, and his family saved. "No man could blame you," Coyle whispered, watching him sway. "Not a starving man. Let your conscience rest. The sea would have taken them anyway." And that was the moment Elias very nearly succumbed. His hand was already on the unlit lamp. His children's faces swam before him. To succumb to Coyle would feed them. To refuse might mean watching them slowly starve. Out in the black, screaming dark, a ship was racing toward the rocks, carrying 100 souls who did not know that one cold, hungry man held all of their lives in his trembling hand. Elias thought of those 100 strangers. He thought of the mothers among them, and the children, and he understood that, whatever Coyle said, there are some bargains a man cannot make and still call himself a man. He lit the lamp. The beacon blazed out across the tempest, vast and golden, and far out in the dark, the grain ship saw it, saw the peril of the rocks in time, and turned, and clawed her way past Black Point to safety. Coyle cursed him, spat at his feet, and vanished back into the storm with his useless gold. Elias climbed down to his cottage and held his hungry children and wept, certain he had chosen 100 strangers over their very lives. He had refused the gold, and he did not know how he would feed them now. His conscience was clean. His cupboards were bare. But Elias did not know what ship he had saved. In the gray calm of the morning, the grain ship dropped anchor in the sheltered bay, battered but whole. Her captain came ashore and found the keeper of the light, and told him the truth that turned the whole terrible night on its head. She was a relief ship. In her hold, she carried 200 tons of grain and a surgeon's chest of medicine, sent by a distant charity for the destitute, famine-struck villages of this very coast. Had she struck the rocks of Black Point, every last sack of that grain would have sunk into the peril of the sea, and the coast Elias loved would have starved to the final child by spring. By saving 100 strangers, Elias had saved his own people. The grain came ashore that very day. No child on that coast went hungry again. Elias had believed, in his dire hour, that his conscience and his children's lives were enemies, that to do the right thing was to let them perish. He learned, on the night of the great tempest, the truth the wreckers never could, that the light you keep burning for strangers in the dark is so often, in the end, the very light that saves your own. He never once succumbed, and the sea, for the first time in his life, gave something back. Now, did you catch all 8? Let's find out. A noun for a violent and raging storm. Think of howling wind, towering waves, and lashing rain at sea. The worst one in 40 years battered the coast that night. A great what drove the grain ship toward the deadly rocks?
The word is tempest.
The tiny boat was tossed helplessly about in the tempest. A noun for a guiding light or a warning signal. Think of a tall light shining out across a dark, stormy sea. Elias lit one each night to warn the ships from the rocks. He had only to keep his what dark, and the ship would die? The word is beacon. The lighthouse beacon could be seen for miles out at sea. A noun for serious and immediate danger. It's the grave danger a sailor faces in a violent storm. The rocks of Black Point were a deadly one for every ship. The lamp let the ship see the what of the rocks in time.
The word is peril.
The climbers were in terrible peril on the narrow, icy ledge. A verb meaning to try to persuade someone with something desirable. It's dangling a treat in front of someone to make them give in. Coil's heavy purse of gold did this to the starving keeper. The bag of gold began to do what to the desperate, hungry man?
The word is tempt.
They tried to tempt him with a much bigger salary. An adjective for being extremely serious or urgent. Think of a warning of disaster that you simply cannot ignore. The keeper's poverty that famine winter was exactly this. In his what kind of need was the gold almost impossible to refuse?
The word is dire.
The flooded region was in dire need of clean drinking water. A noun for your inner sense of right and wrong. It's the quiet inner voice that tells you what is good. Coil told Elias to let his rest and simply take the gold. In the end, Elias could not silence his what?
The word is conscience.
His guilty conscience kept him awake for the whole night. An adjective for being extremely poor, with almost nothing at all. It describes a family with no food, no money, and no hope. The whole famine-struck coast had become this that winter. The what kind of villagers were starving in their cold stone cottages.
The word is destitute.
The long war left thousands of families completely destitute. A verb meaning to give in to pressure or temptation. It's finally surrendering to something you tried hard to resist. Elias very nearly did this to Coil's tempting offer of gold. He came within a breath of doing what to the wrecker's cruel bribe? The word is succumb. After hours of pressure, she finally began to succumb. Quick recap. How many do you still remember?
Tempest.
Beacon,
Peril. Tempt. Dire. Conscience. Destitute.
succumb. A new English story every day. Subscribe and learn advanced words the way your brain actually keeps them. Inside a story you won't forget.